I'm James Ewell from Mediaglue, and today I'm here to talk to you about the 5 P's of website performance. One of the big challenges we have in the website development industry is that when a customer inquires about building a website, they really don't know how to make the decisions involved to create the best outcome for their business. So what I want to do in this session is explain the process that we use with clients to help them identify the outcomes that they want from the website in a way that will give us an understanding of what we need to develop on their behalf. So the very first question we need to look at, the first P is for purpose. So what we have to identify is why they want the site and what it has to achieve. Now, it may seem obvious to some people, but there are a number of options here. The first one could be simply that you want an online brochure. So when somebody hears about your company, they can simply go and see who you are and what you do. There isn't much other interaction other than as literally an online brochure. On the other hand, though, you could be looking to generate sales leads for your business, in which case you need to have the site geared to stimulating sufficient interest and excitement from the visitor that it prompts them to make a further inquiry with you. It may be that you are wanting to sell goods directly off the page with some sort of online shop. So if that's the case, we have to look at the way that your products are categorized, how they're displayed, the amount of information that's there for the visitor to read about them, and of course the purchase methodology. So you need to look at payment gateways, banking infrastructure, or links with PayPal or some similar transaction. It may be that you're promoting a membership facility, so you need to be able to think about how people become members of your website, whether it's free or whether it's paid, or whether it's simply an access portal for your customers to get manuals and instructions and information about your products, but you don't want them publicly available, so there need to be passwords. And then we need to look at things like password recovery if somebody forgets them and aspects such as that. So there are 4 different purposes that your website could serve, and no doubt there are going to be more, but at least we need to consider that when we start to do the design and development work. So the second P stands for people. Now what we're talking about here is a definition of who is going to visit your website. So if you were, for instance, an electrical contractor, and you wanted to promote your services to householders, to developers, and to consulting engineers, you would need to have very clear and obvious links on how that might work. And a site that demonstrates that perfectly is called alwp.com.au. So if you want to have a look at that site there, you'll see 3 very different tracks for the kind of people that could be visiting the website. Now, on the other hand, of course, if you have a website selling wedding accessories or wedding functionality, your prime target is going to be women. So the site needs to be appealing to women, and it needs to demonstrate both in colors and in pictures and in content what your objective is and to appeal to that target marketplace. If your target was, or if your objective was to sell aged care facility, retirement villages, for instance, what you need to be aware is that even though the people who are going to be occupying your retirement village are the elderly, it's generally not them who are going to be visiting the site and looking for it. Apart from the fact they probably don't have access to the internet, it's their children that you're marketing to, so the site has to appeal to them. So your target audience is typically somebody in the 40s, and it's about the site has to explain how you look after their parents in their retirement years. The third P is for promote. You'll remember the Kevin Costner movie Field of Dreams and his classic line, "If you build it, they will come." Sadly, with websites, that isn't the case. And the reason for that is that there are thousands of new websites posted around the world every day. There are tens, hundreds of millions of websites, and yours is just one, totally lost in this enormous environment of competing websites. So we have to look at how we bring visitors, or as we say in the internet game, how we bring traffic to that website. And essentially there's only two methods. The first of those is what we call offline, and that's by any promotional method that happens away from the internet. So that's by your business card, your brochures, by billboards, through conversation, any form of offline marketing, direct mail, where the objective of that piece is to have somebody visit your website. Now, in the online world, there are really only two ways that you can generate direct traffic to your website. The first is what we call organic search. And what organic search means is that when you enter the topic of your website or the problem that you want to solve into one of the search engines, that a page on your website appears in that organic result that cascades down the left-hand side of what we call the results page. And the objective there is to have the visitor identify that the topic of your website matches the search string and have them click through to you. Now, there are only 10 organic results for any given search term at any given time, and the major search engines have a habit of changing the rules. So you may spend a lot of money generating the content and the tags on your site, as well as backlinking, to get yourself an organic result, and then Google or Yahoo change the rules and your site disappears off the ranking. The other thing that you need to think about with that too is that there may be a lot more search terms that people could use than you've thought of. So you're not always going to be available to be found on every search term that somebody could want to use to find you. So the option that you have is to pay for advertising using one of the search engine's paid advertising platforms, or by putting banner adverts on other people's websites. Now, yes, you're going to pay every time somebody clicks on the advert. However, the benefit is that you can put the advert up there today and you can start to get clicks through to your website almost immediately. From a long-term perspective, what that also allows you to do is identify the search terms that people are using to find you, and then look to migrate some of your AdWords spend or paid advertising spend into SEO for some of those search terms. So that's promote. Now the fourth P, is prompt. Now what we mean here is that if you consider back to what the purpose of your website was, what we have to do here is that we have to prompt the visitor to take the action that you want them to take. Now, if you have an online shop and people are attracted to the product, so it meets the need, it meets the price, it meets the delivery and availability requirements, the chances are that you're going to buy. So if you think of sites that we would all regularly visit, such as Amazon, it's very, very easy there to see what you have to do. You find a book or a video you want, and there's a button called Buy Now. So you add that to your shopping cart and you check out, and that's the end of the transaction, and a week later the book arrives in the mail for you. On some shopping carts it isn't quite that easy, so you need to look at what the process involved is. Now, if you were selling, say, a home improvement product, the objective is to have the visitor recognize that the product that you have meets their needs, and you want to encourage them to hopefully ring you up. Now, that's fine if the visitor is looking at your website during normal business hours, but after hours, or if they're in an environment where they can't take a telephone call, say at work, or a difficult working environment, you want to have them fill out a contact form that gives you sufficient information to know how to reach them. So we have to consider first name, last name, possibly the suburb in which they live, the telephone number, the email address, the time of day that is ideal for you to call them, and any other information that you might want to have to help you satisfy their inquiry. Sometimes though, when somebody visits your website, they're not quite ready to contact you. They're maybe not far enough progressed down the buying track, so they're in the thought process. So they're searching for information. Now, your website may have an FAQ page, it may have a gallery showing work that you've done, may have a whole range of other information, but there's more to the story than you can easily put on the website. So you might offer them an option to download what we call a free report or an information guide that has a whole lot more information about the process and the product and the things that the buyer needs to look at. So we can use an exchange process on the website where they can register their name and email address and hopefully the telephone number, and you will in turn send them, and we can automate this for you, send them this document that will explain what you want them to know further about your product or service. Now, the nice thing about that is that we can deliver that in a PDF format with active hyperlinks through it, so they can link back to your website, and it can be seeded with calls to action and testimonials from other people to help validate your position as a quality and reliable provider for their service. Now, the final P stands for pursue. Now, you notice at this stage, this has all been focused on getting the prompt action. So when pursue, what we then have to look at is how we as a provider make further contact with that prospect to convert them into a customer. So we need to analyze, if the inquiry comes in by email, for instance, what the follow-up process is. Is the acknowledgement sent by email? Is a telephone call made? How is that call conducted? What's the best way to make that outgoing call to that inquiry? The other thing too in pursue is that if you're inviting them to renew, you need to look at how your incoming call monitoring process works. Consider the correct questions to ask. How do you make sure that you're going to convert that customer into an inquiry? That inquiry into a customer. And it's a complex process, and we'll talk about that in another video. So let me very quickly summarize again the 5 Ps to effective website performance. Number 1, the purpose. What's the objective of the site? What does it have to achieve? 2, people. That is, who's going to visit it? Promote. How are you going to tell them it's here? How are they going to find it? Prompt. What action do we want them to take so that we can engage in a discussion with them or a sales process? And finally, how, as the vendor, are we going to pursue those people to convert them from an inquiry to a customer?